Cronkite News starts now.
Last night marked the fourth straight night that protesters hit the streets of downtown Phoenix. They were not only angered by the death of George Floyd, who died last week in the custody of Minneapolis police, but they were also marching for answers in the death of 28-year-old Deon Johnson. He was killed here in Phoenix last week. Investigators say Johnson was shot and killed by a DPS trooper after a struggle, but say no video exists. Crowds gathered at two different locations Sunday night, despite Governor Ducey's statewide curfew going into effect at 8 p.m. By 8:30, police deemed the protests unlawful assemblies, and around 9 p.m. things started to escalate. Some protesters began throwing objects at cops, and officers responded by firing tear gas into the crowd. Officers also used flashbang grenades to disperse the crowd shortly after 10. Phoenix police say that more than 100 people were arrested. It was a much different scene the night before, when protesters began looting and vandalizing parts of Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall. Some people smashed windows at stores including Neiman Marcus and Urban Outfitters, grabbing goods and damaging buildings. As weeks go by, COVID-19 cases are hitting record-breaking numbers nationwide and in several states, including Arizona. The supply for ventilators, PPE, and ICU beds are running low. Florida, South Carolina, Texas, and Georgia are also struggling to manage the high demand.
Only bullet in the gun right now is this right here, this little mask.
I think the numbers are going to look worse as we go into next week.
The U.S. is shattering new case records almost daily. 10 states are facing dramatic increase in COVID-19 related deaths over the past week, with the highest average since the pandemic began. Here in Arizona, there are over 123,000 reported COVID-19 cases and over 2,200 fatalities. As we start another work week, already burned out parents are no doubt asking one question: when will my kids go back to school? The answer is complicated, and it could have some dangerous consequences. Whitney Wild brings us the latest from Washington. Here are the top 3 stories Arizonans were clicking on by 8 o'clock this morning, according to CrowdTangle, which monitors content traffic. Coming in third, a statewide poll showing 57% of parents support sending their children back to school in the fall. The poll by High Ground Public Affairs was released a day after Arizona's Department of Education released its guidelines for public schools to reopen. Superintendent of Public Instruction Kathy Hoffman says safety measures will vary between school districts, as far as whether masks will be mandatory or if students will have staggered schedules to limit socializing. The second most clicked on story this morning was the controversial moment after President Trump gave a speech at the White House on Monday. The president walked less than a mile away to St. John's Episcopal Church for a photo opportunity. He held a Bible in front of the church, and he took photos with a few of his aides. Some are criticizing the move because before the president visited the church, military police and the Secret Service forcefully dispersed peaceful protesters at a nearby park with tear gas and rubber bullets. And the most clicked on story in Arizona by the time the sun came up this morning was this image of employees at local businesses in Kingman holding guns during a Black Lives Matter rally yesterday. The caption reads, quote, "Businesses prayed for peace, but we're ready for the worst." That's today's most clickable countdown. Join us again tomorrow to see what news Arizonans are searching for the most. And for news updates throughout the day, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.